Hello all, and thank you for attending my presentation today. My name is Sophie Smith Isbister, and today I'm presenting a paper titled The Hegemonic Rhetoric of Workplace Wellness. So there's a lot to unpack in that title, but before we get into it, I invite you to think for a moment about your own experience with wellness in the workplace, whatever your work experience might look like. Does your workplace have an employee assistance program? Have you ever been asked to attend a wellness seminar for your job? Or has your employer ever encouraged you to exercise more, eat healthy, or quit smoking? These are all aspects of employee wellness rhetoric, and I'm willing to bet that more than a few of you have had some kind of experience with what I'm about to present to you. And as you can see from the meme that I've included, the concept of workplace wellness is already being lightly mocked by workers. The meme is in the style of the Bayeux Tapestry and shows a man viewing two broken and headless bodies and asking, "Hast thou tried a wellness seminar?" So the meme is humorous, of course, but it also shows that people innately see the irony in the idea that a brief seminar can fix the real issues that are present in today's workplace. But despite the humorous takes, wellness remains everywhere. In my presentation today, I will first define a few of the theories I'm working with, and then unpack why I think the current trend of wellness in the workplace is ultimately harmful to the working class. So, what is workplace wellness rhetoric and why critique it? Workplace wellness campaigns are usually focused on employer-sponsored activities that surround topics of individual health and wellness. They are present in more and more workplaces and are offered almost by default by various human resources departments. And today, as workplaces adapt to the COVID-19 pandemic, more and more attention is being placed on worker wellness. So wellness is also a huge industry. Worldwide, it's estimated at 4.4 trillion US dollars, and in Canada alone, it's a $2.7 billion industry. But the industry deserves scrutiny because of its partnership with workplaces. It funnels money away from, for example, paying workers more and towards these stopgap solutions for the very real problem of employee and worker mental health and physical health. So wellness also seems indisputable. It seems like something you can't really argue with. You might ask yourself, well, when did a little bit of wellness ever hurt anybody? But it is exactly when something seems so commonplace that we should begin to scrutinize it, when it blends in so seamlessly with our background, that we must take a moment to ask, what is this discourse doing in our society? This is the task of critical rhetoric, which I'll be talking about next. Simply put, rhetoric is the study of how to persuade people. But there are a lot of branches to rhetoric, including critical rhetoric, which is what I'm going to explain to you now. The rhetorician Raymie McCarrow states that the task of critical rhetoric is to undermine and expose the discourse of power in order to thwart its effects in a social relation. So essentially, this means looking at a text or a social phenomenon from a critical perspective to ask, what is this text doing in society and who is it benefiting? Now, there's an awful lot to discuss when it comes to critical rhetoric, but the most important aspect is the critique of domination. The critique of domination can be understood as pointing out and critiquing ideologies that support domination. And it asks, how is this ideology mobilized or even weaponized within our texts and our society to promote the interests of the dominant class? Now, a key theory to understanding this relationship to the dominant class is Antonio Gramsci's theory of hegemony. Antonio Gramsci was a Marxist theorist who came up with a theory of hegemony to explain why Marxist revolution failed to take hold in Europe. So the key aspect to hegemony is referring to the few concessions given to the working class by the owner class to stave off a full-scale revolution. Think about some of the workers' rights that we enjoy here in Canada. For example, the 40-hour work week, parental leave, laws against child labor. These things may seem like we take them for granted now, but these are all concessions that had to be fought for and granted by the dominant class. From a critical studies perspective, we use the theory of hegemony a lot to study pop culture and other social phenomena. So another way that hegemony exerts itself in society is through the notion of common sense. Gramsci was really focused on the idea that the dominant class can essentially write the script for what is seen as normal and acceptable in our society. When it comes to wellness rhetoric, I believe that it benefits hegemonic interests to frame wellness as being fit for work. And the ubiquity of workplace wellness campaigns indicates that offering these programs has really become a matter of common sense. In my paper, I argue that this is because the idea of wellness present in the workplace is the type of wellness that serves to benefit the dominant class, fitness for purpose. So now that I've defined a few key terms that I'm working with, let's put it all together and look at some examples to show how workplace wellness rhetoric upholds hegemony. Firstly, wellness ideology alienates the unwell by deflecting unwellness. So let me explain that. In critical rhetoric, we often look at a term and see how that word itself is obscuring other meanings. To make sense of that, I'm going to talk for a minute about Kenneth Burke and terministic screens. Kenneth Burke was a rhetorician, a scholar, a writer, and an absolute genius in my opinion. He was interested in language as symbolic action. Burke, like critical rhetoricians, wanted to know what words are doing in our society. He also had a broad definition of rhetoric. For Burke, all communication involves some aspect of persuasion. So I was interested in Burke's theory of terministic screens to understand this concept of wellness and how the term itself negates unwellness. Burke states that even if any given terminology is a reflection of reality, by its very nature, it must be a selection of reality. And to this extent, it must function also as a deflection of reality. I argue that in the case of wellness, the term itself is a deflection of its opposite, unwellness. And when something has been deflected, there is no room for it to appear in discourse. Who could possibly speak up against the highest virtue, wellness? It closes discourse for people to speak freely about their own struggles. And the only language that workers hear about sickness or poor health is that it's something to avoid, something to turn away from, something to deflect. Sickness and injury are then framed as an inconvenience to the company, even sometimes an inconvenience to your coworkers. So by deflecting the very reality of unwellness to focus on a shallow definition of wellness linked with fitness for work, wellness rhetoric alienates the unwell. And this benefits hegemonic interest because an alienated and divided workforce cannot meaningfully collaborate and agitate for the change that is needed. So that leads really nicely into my next point, which is that wellness ideology presents individual solutions over community solutions. Workplace wellness rhetoric presents wellness as something we do for ourselves, by ourselves, and not something that our larger community should come together for. But there are a lot of things that can make us unwell. According to the Centre for Addiction and Mental Health, Canada's largest mental health hospital, poverty is an indicator for mental health issues. They state that Canadians in the lowest income group are 3 to 4 times more likely than Canadians in the higher income group to report poor to fair mental health. They also note the mental health crisis in Canada in general, saying that by the time Canadians reach 40 years of age, 1 in 2 have or have had a mental illness. So this issue of unwellness in the workplace is massive. But when you look at some of the factors that seem to affect our mental health, there's a disconnect between what workplaces offer, such as workbooks, seminars, and wellness challenges, compared to what people need, which is flexibility, fair wages, affordable and accessible treatment. Instead, these market-oriented individualist solutions offered by the wellness industry don't come close to offering what people actually need. And this benefits hegemonic interests because it's possibly cheaper than supporting our nationalized healthcare system or supporting those social safety nets that help people, truly help people when they're going through a tough time. So now that I've gone over a few of my key points, I'd like to show you an example of the type of workplace wellness rhetoric that's offered in Canadian workplaces. This image here is a picture of the Wellness Works Canada Mental Health First Aid Kit. So first off here, we have a pamphlet that promotes individual resilience and individual solutions. Next, we have activities to do alone. There's a stress ball, a fidget spinner, a coloring book, maybe even a sticker to put on your laptop. All in all, these are individual activities. So next, we have this pamphlet to help you find more resources on your own. And finally, the bottom line, what it all comes down to, building a healthy, high-performing work culture. And that's what it comes down to. That's all that workplace wellness is about. It's about creating a workforce with a fitness for purpose, not asking workers what they want to be well for. Critical rhetoric is not just a theory, it's also a practice. It's not enough to simply point out the ways in which a discourse promotes hegemonic interests. We should also be prepared to take a stand and talk about what needs to be done and present alternatives. So today, the purpose of my paper and my presentation is not to sour you on the concept of wellness or criticize anyone's personal experience with wellness. Wellness can do a lot of good, however it finds you. But my goal here today is to make you question, what do I want out of my work? Do I want to keep blurring the lines between my work time and my leisure time? And what does wellness mean for me? Am I being well so that I can punch in and out of work on time, or am I being well so that I can experience the whole breadth of the human existence, so I can pick up my kids or hug my auntie or help a friend move? There are a lot more reasons to be well than just to go to work. And I hope my presentation today has made you think a little bit about that. Thank you so much for listening and enjoy the rest of the conference.